Hey everyone, welcome to another video. My name's EarthToLydia and I usually tell everyone that I'm a very boosted survivor main. But as it goes, that slogan might need a bit of a facelift. Lately, and by lately I mean a good few months at least. Lately, I've been playing a lot more killer both on and off stream, and I've been having an awful lot of fun doing so. I asked in one of my recent videos if you guys wanted to see a video showing you how I've been teaching myself certain killers, and a lot of you said yes. So today I'm going to be showing you all how I've been teaching myself how to play Huntress. Before we get into the video, I've set this channel a little challenge for the end of the year. So recently I found out that more than 70% of my viewers aren't actually subscribed to the channel, so after discovering this, I've decided to make it my mission to push for 15,000 subscribers by the end of 2020. So if you're watching this right now and you're not subscribed, if you'd consider subscribing, that would mean the absolute world to me. I'm making it my mission to provide as much content for you guys as possible as well. The rest is up to you really. We're nearly at 6,000 subscribers as it is, so let's try and get that goal met. For those of you that don't know too, I'm a full-time Dead by Daylight streamer on Twitch, so you can catch me live 5 days a week at twitch.tv/EarthToLydia. Alright, let's get into it now, shall we? So if you're anything like me and you've tried to break into Killer a couple of times without really knowing what you're doing, then you've probably been quite intimidated by Huntress. Before I really start, she's not one of the easiest killers to learn. She's certainly not one of the most difficult, but she has several attributes to her kit that put her at a disadvantage compared to other killers. There are a few things that you should really familiarize yourself with when it comes to Huntress before you start playing her. First things first, her lullaby has a 42-meter radius, which is just a little bit wider than Whispers at tier 2. So for the most part, and particularly if you're learning to play her at lower ranks, survivors will probably hear your lullaby and start to hide. Her actual terror radius itself is only 20 meters, which is even smaller than Deathslingers and Hags. That means that currently the only killer's terror radius that's smaller than hers and that can't be switched off at will by their power is Maya's. Having said that, I wouldn't play around her terror radius because it's her lullaby that will usually have survivors on alert. So if you're considering running the likes of Monitor and Abuse, you probably won't see much, if any, benefit to it. While we're on the topic of perks, I'm going to quickly go over her teachables. Don't run her teachables. Huntress's real weakness is that the survivors tend to know she's coming before she knows where they are. This also puts her at a bit of a disadvantage as she's one of the slowest moving killers in the game at only 110% movement speed. So if you're confused by that number, it means that she's only 10% faster than survivors, whereas most of the other killers in the game are at least 15% faster. So unfortunately for her, Huntress Lullaby, Beast of Prey, and Territorial Imperative don't really do anything for her. You'll probably want to bring in at least 2 tracking perks with you, specifically aura reading perks, even if you think that you're good at tracking. The reason that I suggest this is because Huntress is at her best when she can snipe a hatchet shot. I'm pretty comfortable with the build that I have right now, which is Barbecue and Chili, Whispers, A Nurse's Calling, and Pop Goes the Weasel. I use Whispers to give me an advantage at the start of the game to tell me which generator the survivors have started on. It's also pretty useful at the end of the game to let me know which exit gate the survivors are at if there's only 1 or 2 left. So rather than repeatedly having to go back and forth, you can know for certain which one they're at. Again, she's pretty slow, and if I've got some pretty split exit gates, then this really helps me out a lot. I use A Nurse's Calling as this will give me the aura of at least 1 survivor that is completely static. So that gives me a completely unmoving target to aim at and will guarantee me a down if they don't finish the heal in time. And Barbecue I use to keep the momentum up. After I hook a survivor, I can see exactly what generators are being worked on by their teammates, and again, they're a static target for me to throw hatchets at. There are a handful of other perks though that really complement Huntress's kit and make her job a little easier for her. Discordance is a really solid aura reading perk that can give you long range hits on a gen whenever 2 survivors start working on it. The gen will stay lit to show you that the survivors are still repairing it, so you can usually get a pretty accurate hit on at least 1 person until the aura turns back to red. I'm All Ears is also a really solid perk which allows you to see the survivor's aura after they fast vault a window. That will then allow you to draw a hatchet before they round a corner, and rather than trying to predict when they're going to appear, you can know for certain and be prepared. Corrupt Intervention isn't an aura reading perk, but you can use it at the start of the game to try and herd all the survivors together and get some solid hooks early on in the game. Bitter Murmur is also a perk that works really well on her among a few others, but first and foremost, focus on having a couple of tracking perks. When I was first starting out playing Huntress, I asked some more experienced killer mains what advice they could give me, and one really solid recommendation I got was to not play with any add-ons. Trust me, I know it's tempting to try and learn with training wheels on, but with the way that Huntress's add-ons work, they're actually just more likely likely to act as a crutch, and you'll struggle to play without them. So I'd start with playing without her add-ons, as I'm demonstrating in this game here. It'll get you used to a default wind-up time, her base amount of hatchets, the cooldown between hatchet throws, basically just get to grips with her power. Learning this way made me pick up on her power as a whole, and now any add-ons that I use only enhance that for me, and I'm not reliant on the boost that I get from them. The other thing that I want to point out, which isn't as widely known as you would think, is that it is possible to cancel a hatchet throw. So if you wind up your hatchet and realize that there's no way that you can hit a survivor, then you can use M1 or whatever you'd usually use to hit a survivor to cancel the hatchet and put it back in your belt, rather than wasting it. And that brings me nicely into the next point, which is about holding the hatchet. I know there's a lot of temptation to just pull out a hatchet last minute and essentially quickscope a survivor, but there are so many benefits to holding your hatchet. Firstly, the hatchets are projectiles, and when you quickly draw a hatchet and release it immediately, it will travel in an arc to the target. So if you're quickly throwing a hatchet, you might want to aim a little higher, depending on where you want it to hit, so that it travels further and avoids any obstacles. Now, if you've not got any obstacles in the way and you have a clear line of sight in the survivor, then you'll find it really beneficial to hold your hatchet to charge it. The game will tell you when the hatchet is fully charged because it'll make a small metallic sound. This will give the hatchet more power to travel faster and further in a straight line rather than arch. Holding a hatchet is really beneficial, as the survivors will usually start weaving and closing the distance to dodge it. When they do this, you can aim at the center of the area that they're generally weaving in and out of, and due to the speed, they're unlikely to actually be able to dodge it. I also find that some survivors will keep looking back at me until I throw a hatchet to try and dodge out of the way. And they're doing that because they're trying to dodge out of the way at the last minute. And in that case, I just aim a little bit further behind them and they tend to run straight back into it. Holding the hatchet does, however, drastically reduce your movement speed to 77%. So if I'm at a loop where I know that I can't get a decent line of sight on the survivor, then I won't bother pulling out a hatchet, as it'll just allow them to get away from me faster. Also, be wary of survivors that throw pallets. Even at red ranks, you'd be surprised to see a lot of survivors that try to pallet stun huntresses or throw pallets as if they're playing against a wraith or a trapper. If the survivor leads me to a pallet, I tend to always draw the hatchet up while staying a little bit further back, and either they'll keep on running and I can cancel the hatchet again, or they'll throw the pallet, which will lock them into an animation, and that guarantees me a hit on them. I've heard from a few survivors that some of them have this rule where you loop the pallet twice and on the third go they'll drop it, so I try and keep that in mind if they don't throw the pallet straight away. There are also a lot of walls that you can aim over, like the smaller walls made from trash on Auto Haven. However, the hitbox is a little higher than you would think, so you want to aim slightly higher towards the survivor's head if you're not charging the hatchet. Which brings me nicely onto the next point of hitboxes. So the survivors tend to lean forward slightly when they're running or injured. A lot of survivors think that Huntress gets some bullshit hits, but realistically she can just aim a hatchet at the leg which is extended the furthest back and it will register as a hit. So it doesn't really matter which part of the survivor that you do hit, just so long as the hatchet connects. For that reason, I wouldn't suggest always trying to aim for the head, but the biggest center of mass, which is the body. Plus, headshots mean absolutely nothing in this game, so you have nothing to lose by not trying to go for the head every time. And lastly, she just needs a lot of practice and upkeep. The projectiles take a lot of getting used to, and the only way that you can get better is to just keep trying to figure it out. And I promise you will get better over time. Also, a lot of people do get very rusty when they've not played her for a bit, so don't get disheartened if you've not played her for a while and suddenly you're not as good as you used to be. Just have a couple of games to get back into the swing of things and you will be okay. Anyway, that is how I taught myself Huntress. If you liked any of these tips or it was something new to you, then please do consider leaving a like on the video. That really helps me out a lot. Also, let me know which killers that you want to see me do these on as well. I'm planning on doing another one on Legion or maybe Pig, but that's totally up to you guys, so just let me know down in the comments what you'd like to see next. And make sure to subscribe for future episodes. Anyway, as always, all of my social medias are linked in the description box, including the link to my Discord server. So if you have any questions, come along, you can ask me, and if not me, then I'm sure somebody else will be willing to answer that for you. And until next time, thank you guys so much for making it this far into the video. See you later, guys.